Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to yet again another episode of LunarCrush Live. I think this is like 98 or 99. It almost was 100. We're getting super close here. How you doing this morning, John?
I'm good, man. It's a beautiful day here and working hard.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yes, we're stoked for today. So today we've got Jamie Thomson, CEO of Vulcan Forged. We'll be talking about all their developments, what's going on with him, chatting about the community. Just a reminder, everyone, again, we do not take payment for our live streams. We bring on cool, fun, exciting people that have dedicated their lives and careers to crypto, which it sounds like Jamie has after talking with him a little bit backstage. Get in there, slam that subscribe button, as we like to say. We've got a lot of great. We got Melo Studios, really cool, kind of like NFT, like drop-in beats, and like you can buy stuff in their marketplace. That's pretty cool. A couple other really fun ones coming up. So make sure you get in there, and you can get that email when those are going to go live. Without further ado, let's bring up Jamie. What's up, my man?
How you doing, guys? I'm with the gatekeepers of the social media insights. I feel like if I keep saying Vulcan Forged enough, my alt rank score will go up up the ranks, but I don't know if it works like that.
Yeah, no, you could try it. You might get up there for like one day, but then, man, your finger's going to be tired. You can't stay consistent on that.
Okay, all right.
Then. You know, we need to add a live graph as we do this that like shows in the corner to show the social activity as you're talking. I like that. That's a good idea.
I love it.
Are you guys responsible for those algorithms, or is it just sort of you've got some tech people behind it doing all that?
We just flag people down in the cities that we're at, and we're like, "Hey, do you know what math is?" And then you come in here, and you're all like, "It's all good." But yeah, no, we designed them ourselves. We had a small team. It was just a couple of us getting this thing started, and understanding what the community is. But appreciate that, man.
It's okay. I'm glad this interview is going so well. Any other questions I can ask you guys?
I don't know. Maybe we should let you do the whole thing and you just flip it on us. Maybe if we do a LunarCrush live on LunarCrush again, you can interview us. No, man, right. we always like to start with where are you in the world, and what's it like there?
Yeah, okay. Well, I usually make a joke about being in Vulcanverse behind me, about being in the depths of the underworld, talking to you puny mortals. But I've done that joke so many times with the community, I think they're sick of it. But I did it again anyway. But we're actually in Greece. So the main company's in Greece. There's 15 of us here in the office, and there's about 75 of us in England, Ukraine, Pakistan. So we're quite a big game studio. But I've been in Greece for 5 years. I've got a little daughter here, and so this is my home. So this is where we set up base a few years ago.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it was funny as I was inside and I was, my wife I was getting ready. She's like, "Where are you headed? Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going into the metaverse. Like I'm going into the StreamYard metaverse. Like I'm not going anywhere. I'm going in the backyard."
Right.
I love it, man. So Greece, what's it like kind of growing like a project out of that part of the world? There's a lot of like different parts of Europe where it's like London kind of seems to be like, a little bit of a epicenter of what's going on. There's some parts of Eastern Europe, like Dubai seems to be kind of going off. Like, what's it like kind of building in that part of the world?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few of those select Greek crypto communities here, because I joined one of the channels where they keep people updated, and but it's very sort of token specific. So you get like an ETH meeting or a Matic meeting, whatever, as they're very sort of token specific. So they're more investors really than many blockchain companies out here. I think there's only 3 game studios in the whole of Greece, which I know sounds mind-boggling and unbelievable. Wow. But most of the talent here has kind of left, and they've gone to like the bigger cities, New York, London. So getting talent actually from in Greece is actually quite hard. So you get a lot of applications, and I guess we've poached all the developers of the mainland so far. So we'll continue until we've adopted everyone.
Love it. And so how did you find crypto in general? Like, where did your career and journey start into this industry?
I think it was just sort of strolling on Binance right at the peak of the bull market, getting utterly wrecked by buying the top of Bitcoin, I think. And then obviously, you sort of stay involved. And that was in 2018 when Bitcoin, I think, hit 19,000. You sort of, you find out about the families and friends, which is probably the sign that you've got in there a little bit too late. And then it just fascinated me. I just couldn't believe that this was happening, and it was all legal, and this was just trading, and there was these communities. And I guess we sort of started with a digital art NFT site, which was way before its time. It was actually before OpenSea was around, like called Veriarty, and like no one really bit on the idea. Like they couldn't understand why someone would own an NFT. It's like, you know, it's the same now, I guess, as some people are saying. But so we closed that down, and then we sort of got the game studio up and running. So yeah, just a sort of, you see a few projects, you think, well, you know, we could give this a go. Why don't we try it out? We were already a small game studio to start with, so we thought, well, let's try and, you know, make these assets ownable, just like the NFT idea we had. And it just sort of I guess we hit the right time as well, of course, because last year was really the gaming, and of course this year I would say as well, it was the gaming and metaverse year. So we already had Vulcanverse out and beta. We've got about 11, 12 games, which obviously, while they're not finished, they're sort of out and ready. So we were in the right place and right time, I suppose, to kind of jump on that wave.
And why games?
For me, I just enjoy the creativity of it all. I'm not a gamer, actually, which people find hard to believe. I'm the CEO of the game company, but I don't play a lot of games. But I'm more fascinated with the whole, I guess, the philosophical side of the whole metaverse, the idea of owning and living and this whole economy within this virtual world, which I think is just, it's on one side quite dangerous, on the other side it's thrilling and exciting and it's new. So for me, that's what the whole concept of the metaverse is. It's just on this sort of economy within a virtual world, which blockchain enables, because it allows you to monetize tokens and own things, and it's just so new and fascinating to me. That's my drive, I'd say.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's, when you talk about it like that, it's like gaming is just another economy, right? It's just a different economy, and you're playing a different type of way to win, right? And if you think about like real life like that, I guess everyone's kind of playing a game as well. It's like, hey, some people are trying to win, some people are trying to just kind of hang out and be who they are, and that could be winning to them. And like, winning is whatever you want it to be to you, I guess.
Exactly, and that's one of the not worrying, but that's one of the sort of dilemmas we battle with a lot of the time, is when you sort of introduce money into any game, or play to earn, or if you monetize something, does it become enjoyable anymore? And I think, you know, we saw that with Axie Infinity. I mean, obviously it was hardly World of Warcraft, the Call of Duty, but it was incredibly popular simply because you could sort of just grind and earn. And it is hard, because originally Vulcanverse was just kind of like a World of Warcraft building Minecraft kind of game, and that was, people enjoyed that and they had fun. We had users. The minute we started putting a tokenomics in it, and we've got an economy and you can earn by staking or foraging or fighting, it becomes really intense. You know, the whole chat's just like, well, where's the next diamond? How do I get that? It's not fair. I want this. It's like, well, are they enjoying this anymore? Or are they just trying to grind as much money out of it as possible?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both, but probably a lot of the play to earn side of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On that note, where are you seeing in the world the interest coming from for people earning your token?
Before we introduce the play to earn, because we've obviously got PYR as our main token and Lava as our secondary token. So before we launched Lava, it was primarily Western countries, sort of more developed countries, you know, a very big English, Dutch, American community. Then, of course, when we introduced the Lava and scholarships across the board, then we've had an enormous wave of users from other countries, Philippines, and quite similar to the sort of the Axie demographic is sort of slowly coming in. But right now it's a good mix, because you've got people who do enjoy the game. They do enjoy, and they do have the funds to kind of own the NFTs and ride a dragon or ride a lion and sort of enjoy the game. And you've got those that accept they can't, you know, spend $1,000 on a castle, but they're happy sort of just burrowing away to find a diamond to sort of make $5-10 a day. So right now it's a good balance, I'd say.
It's interesting. It's like that part of the world. There's this, like the whole play to earn model is almost entrenched into society. It's a different perspective versus Western countries, you know, and it's leveraging it properly and like doing the right thing with it is tough. It's tough.
Well, I had no idea how organized it was. I mean, I didn't even play Axie before,
Yeah.
but we you know, other people do the tokenomics for us and help us with that. And then you realize there are guilds. Like I think when YGG got on board, I didn't even know what a guild was, and then Merit Circle and all these others. And you see how organized they are, and they help each other, and they're very polite, and they report each other. It's like little organizations working within it, which again is just, you know, I guess like the real world, I suppose.
So tell us, what is Vulcan Forged?
Okay, so we're a game studio first and foremost. We've got about 12 games. I said to you before, there's about 75 of us. Vulcanverse behind me is obviously the biggest game we've got. It's actually, even though we're not up there with the sort of Malice and Sand in terms of market cap. We're the sort of busiest daily count at the moment, people going in. So it's kind of a Minecraft meets World of Warcraft meets sandbox kind of game. So it's a lot more lore and fantasy and gameplay than other metaverses, which we kind of like. And all our games are very similar themes to the whole Greco-Roman mythology, you know, Medusas, centaurs, minotaurs, and all that. We've got Berserk, a Hearthstone game, and a Forge Arena, an Auto Battler. And one thing we do try to do is sort of we allow the NFTs to be matched across all the games. So if you buy this NFT, the Asterion Minotaur, Master of Minotaurs and Vulcan Forged, you can use him in Berserk as a card, or Forge Arena as a thing, or in our tower defense game. So yeah, I mean, I guess we say we're a blockchain gaming studio now. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, the word metaverse as well sort of confuses us. I mean, everyone just uses that word so lightly and frivolously now. It's just hard to define what is a metaverse. For me, it's always like an economy. I said an economy with a virtual world with blockchain, but Facebook would have different ideas what it is.
Yeah, it's almost become too ubiquitous in the usage, especially the end of last year, where it was just people were just chasing metaverse, and like obviously Facebook fueled a lot of that. And it's like there's going to be multiple metaverses, and like the internet really is already the metaverse, right? It's just like, does metaverse mean that suddenly like I just have something like over my eyes and I can't see like in the periphery? Like, is that what a metaverse is?
I know.
I just can't see, or like, what is it? Like,
you stick an Oculus on, are you now in the metaverse? I mean, I think the definition of it is just a futuristic world. So you could say, yeah, the internet was a metaverse. Facebook alone now is a metaverse. I mean, World of Warcraft is a metaverse. So I think blockchain gaming companies have kind of just coined it and adopted it a little bit to say, okay, it's a blockchain game, but then what? Just an NFT game is a metaverse. So it is hard to define. And obviously, also got the Facebook and the Microsofts. They're going down the heavy tech side of it all. You know, VR, hologram, sort of much more sort of electronic futuristic technology, which is cool. And actually, that kind of fits the idea of a metaverse a little bit more than I would say a blockchain world does. You know, like the holodecks of Star Trek and such. That would be a metaverse, perhaps.
I still think Fortnite is like the largest metaverse currently. It's like they've had like concerts, right? Like when you move from like just a game to like a meeting place, I feel like that's where like people are kind of saying, hey, I'm going there with one purpose. And then, you know, someone you go and you join another metaverse and you're like, I don't know what the purpose is. I'm just going to join this because like this is an interesting area.
Right.
It's like that's the leap I feel like that's being made.
Yes, community, sort of gathering, I guess, gatherings within a different sort of world, a sort of virtual world. Yes, I guess if you have communities within a virtual world, I guess that's a good way to define it. Yeah.
I think it's interesting when you guys talk about like the access point into whatever this becomes. Like, you know, Facebook would love it if you associated with, you know, Oculus, you know, or I'm sorry, Meta would love it if you associated the metaverse with Oculus. And Microsoft probably has, you know, hardware, software, different things they want to sell you that make their businesses money. That's sort of like a more corporate direction to go versus a crypto specific direction to go. And it's interesting because it's like the old world of making money versus saying, you know, hey, in this metaverse that's blockchain based, you're going to monetize your time. And I'm curious, like what you see, because, you know, the whole concept of play to earn versus, I mean, like I grew up like a Street Fighter 2 native, Mario Brothers, Nintendo, all that stuff. Right. And like, man, I wish I could somehow monetize all of that time that I spent in the past. And I sit here and I go like what patterns are you seeing? And what could like Microsoft and Meta do that like monetize users for their time? You know, and that, to me, that seems like a gap.
I agree. I think you're right in the fact that they are going the more the traditional route where they will sort of, I think with Meta, obviously it's going to be sort of privacy and advertisements, and with the Microsoft, they'll be selling equipment. But it is interesting that Facebook Meta came out at the same time the blockchain metaverse hype was coming, because as far as I know, Facebook aren't launching some blockchain metaverse, but they're going down the other route. So I don't know if it was a coincidence or they just saw the hype with the metaverse hashtag everywhere. But personally, and I'm not really a business guy, but it seemed a bit of a risk to me, Facebook doing that, because I don't know if the world is ready for like everyone wearing Oculuses and VR headsets. You know, we've got it. It's been around for ages. I mean, they could bring the price down for these headsets, but still there's something about sticking something on your head which is I don't know if it's mass adopted yet. I saw some of the products they were releasing with like you can pick things up with your hands in a VR environment, but I was thinking, okay, so now what? So what's the next step? Okay, VR, living it. So I don't know, but I do like that you've got the blockchain side of the metaverse thing going one way, and then you have got the company idea of the metaverse going that way. And obviously, I might be biased, but obviously my money's on the blockchain, the decentralized idea of what a metaverse is.
It's really interesting because you could say with all their money, like they're going to come up with some visually stunning things, right? Like they've got, if you can fund the development of a metaverse, great. But to me, it still comes back to, as a player, if you can't monetize your time properly, if it's just an expense, or if you're the product and being served ads all day in the metaverse, that just really, we're going to see ads all day in a metaverse.
Right.
It's like, it seems kind of crazy. And the money of all of it ends up going to the corporation versus the users.
Yeah. Well, I presume Meta, the Facebook metaverse, would actually be doing what they're doing now, you know, selling your data and your privacy to another company, but they'd have far more concrete data than not just your text. They see your movements, who you talk to, what you talk about. I mean, I don't even know what the whole Cambridge Analytica thing was, but I imagine they found another alternative to do it. I mean, how else will they monetize it? It won't just be like ads, pop-up ads, popping up. It'll probably be a data selling. But it's interesting you said about the Street Fighter 2. You loved that when you grew up, and of course I did too. Now, if you were playing that again now and you knew that you would get money out of playing it, like every 3 wins you would get $1, how would your motivation change? Would you enjoy it as much anymore? Or would it start becoming a job, and would it cause more stress and anxiety?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that is I look back and yeah, there was a totally different time. You'd line up to the stand-up console at the pizza place down the street, and you'd line up your quarters because you were next in line because everyone was waiting to play. It was so much fun. And you kind of look at that. It was amazing. And you'd look at the people around you. Those people became your friends because while you were waiting to play, you talk to them, you're bonding, you have common interests.
Right.
I look at that if tipping was involved, you know, and if there was a way to like get them involved monetarily, man, it's like the behavior just completely changes. And I don't even think I don't think it's necessarily even to say, well, you'd play more and it's more addictive. It seems to me like it's much more, you figure out new ways to build new things and new experiences and evolve that ecosystem further. I think that's what's more exciting.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing? I'm so curious.
Well, no, I mean, I'm agreeing with. I agree. It's I honestly find a real dichotomy between this whole sort of play to earn idea and fun and enjoyment. And I think getting the balance between the two, it's very difficult. And we're all so early. I mean, you know, I'll admit, you know, Decentraland, even Vulcanverse, sometimes it's not a World of Warcraft game. There isn't. I mean, we've got quests and all that kind of stuff. We make it as entertaining as possible. But still, the main goal is for a lot of people just to make that money. And it's just like putting those two things together is very, very hard. You know, you've got the people who want to make money, people want to have fun. The people having fun are happy buying games. You know, they'll go to the Ubisofts and then the whatevers of the world, and they'll pay to play. And the people who want to make money, they'll just farm any old game, whether it's crap or not. So it's very hard to kind of join those two together. But what I did find, a sort of silver lining in all of it, is that what it's producing is this whole new demographic of the metaverse. People that want to own things, and they just, I mean, as an example, Vulcanverse, we actually built it around the users. It was terrible back in alpha. We had like, you know, wigs were flying off and the wolves were stuck in the grass and all sorts of stuff going on. But the users loved it and they stuck with us because they owned that wolf. And they didn't care if the avatar's nose was over there and, you know, on the floor, because they owned that avatar. And there's a real, also a compassion or link, much more of an emotional connection between the assets and the characters in the game because you own them. And that's the thing that interests me.
Well, there's a difference between like competition and fun, right? Like I could use golf as the example, right? Like there's a lot of people that are competitive and they played golf in high school or university or whatever it may be. And then they come out and they're like, man, I'm so used to just being competitive and so much focus that like I can't have a drink and go play for fun with my friends, right? Like those are two different ways to think about like community. And it's like, I feel like with this model, we're just not there yet, right? So if the only two ways to like play to earn right now are like Vulcan Forged and LunarCrush, right? And there's only 2 companies on the planet that are doing that. That's not enough, But it's like, if
No.
every single touch point on the internet was that, then it suddenly becomes enough, right? And so suddenly it's like, well, maybe you don't need to be earning $5 to $10 a day using Vulcan Forge. Maybe it's 5 to 10 cents, and that's okay. And I'm still going to use it for fun, because every other touch point in the internet is also contributing to that. Like, I'm using Brave browser. I'm using, like, what if every time I open my Coinbase app, like, I earned a little bit more, right? And so it's, as you bring all those things together, it goes back to the fun. And it goes back to, like, I'm going to spend more time on this thing because I enjoy it, but the upside of the income is no longer there. But it's like, we're building the very base level of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and where does that, and the play to earn, I mean, maybe you get the money after completing a certain amount of quests, or not as much. And you're right, sort of basic economics, where you just throw enough competitors in there, then you'll work out what the users want, and it will filter each other out. It will saturate, the cream will rise to the crop. I mean, if you look where we are now, I mean, Second Life was way ahead of its time, really, back in the day. And that was, I think it had Bitcoin actually trading at like 20 cents or something. Then there's Second Life, and then Minecraft, and then Decentraland was massive, and respected Decentraland. But of course, it's you own the world, which is a great idea. And then you've got Sandbox, and then of course I'm going to plug our own verse, and we kind of level it up a little bit. But we're still very early in if there's a market, and how that market will work. So all we can do really is just sort of throw as much gameplay at it, really design the tokenomics as well as we can, so people don't just take stuff and leave. And I think that's an important differentiation to make. I think from the Axie days, where it was like anyone could farm, I think you're going to find that instead of us play to earn, it's going to be play to earn to reinvest. I think and that's where the game companies will be very good at sort of gamifying the way to sort of keep them in, to reinvest that money back into it. Otherwise, it's just going to be an overinflated token or economy that gets just destroyed. So yeah, there are a lot of things, and I don't know if we have the answer, but we can only sort of go on what we've experienced and keep trying.
It's really, really interesting what you guys are talking about right now, because it's sort of like I'll bring up like New York Times. New York Times is an example, right? So New York Times doesn't pay its users, right? They don't pay its users to do anything, but they have probably a giant marketing budget. They have a paywall. They have banners all over the place. They're experimenting with a lot of stuff. It's interesting because, can you imagine a future where, as this stuff evolves and the whole like play to earn, or really anything to earn, if you think about it, like imagine what the internet looks like for these sites that aren't participating in that. They're just dead.
Yeah.
Like
if it takes off. Yeah.
There's
a balance though between, like, I mean, if a site has like the most epic content on planet Earth, right? Like that content, if that content is so good, it's going to always overpower the other two. But when like the best content matches up with that business model, right, now everyone else has to follow through. Like, it's game over. So it's like, if you don't have the best content and you're not using the best model, you can't compete.
Yeah, it's a mix of all sorts of things. And also you've got to ask yourself if the play to earn model is even something which competes with the traditional gaming. And of course, you think that I'd be biased and say it does, but I'm actually the opposite. I say right now, where we're at now, I don't think play to earn games are competing with the gaming industry whatsoever. I mean, the gaming industry, billions and billions of dollars, and people are happy. I mean, I can't lie. I mean, I've got phone games, and I'll pop $1 in there to get some more credits. And I'm still paying to play, and I enjoy those games. And the gamers, and you saw recently with the whole Ubisoft announcement of NFTs, just went down like a lead brick. They're not warm to the idea of NFTs yet. They've got this idea that, like, NFTs destroys the Amazon forest and kills 10 baby deers or something. And they're not there yet. And people aren't competing. The big game studios aren't thinking, oh no, we have to pay them to play the game. They're more entertaining. There's no competition there yet, so we don't know where it's going to go.
Seems like a lot of these like Web 2 or traditional companies, they think about this as like, from the standpoint of, yeah, we'll accept Bitcoin for payment. Like, they're still there. They're not thinking blockchain native as the core of what they're building. It's this peripheral thing where they're like accepting crypto or something.
They're sticking it on their communities now, and they don't realize that crypto is a whole new demographic. The people who are involved, it's very cliquey, and you have to be a certain kind of person, I think, to be involved in crypto in the first place. And that's same with blockchain gaming. It's not the traditional 14-year-old gamer sitting home on Fortnite. You can't just stick an NFT in Fortnite and think everyone's going to want that. It's a very new demographic, which is why we're doing what we're doing, because we believe that demographic is new and it has a potential to be enormous.
It also disrupts their corporate profits tremendously, because the value should go into the token and the NFTs, but they don't look at it that way. They still have quarterly earnings.
That's right. So, and do users care at the end of the day, as long as they get a game they enjoy? So the key is to really keep them, is to drive that message home.
It's interesting. So how big do you see the opportunity for Vulcan Forged? I mean, as we're talking about all this stuff, where do you see this going?
Well, I can't say it's going to be small, because I'll just see the stocks fall as I do. But I think we're without doubt one of the strongest, if not if not the strongest game studio. I mean, we've got an enormous amount of developers. I think we're doing things a little bit better, and we're thinking a lot about our tokenomics and just sort of making them more sustainable. With our lava token, you have to play a lot. It's a real grind to even cash stuff out. But most of all, we enjoy what we're doing, which is the main part of it. I mean, we've been around for years, and we're just going to keep building games and adjust the tokenomics based on users and see where we are. But in terms of blockchain gaming space, I say we're one of the top companies. In terms of the gaming space, absolutely not. And will we have billions of players? Probably not. Maybe. We hope so. By Christmas would be nice. Who knows?
And so tell us a little bit about like the two token system here with like PYR and Lava. And, I'm seeing like you could, stake like Lava, I think, and earn PYR, and like how do those two work within the system?
Yeah, the other way around. So PYR is our main sort of settlement token. So you use PYR for all of, we've got our own marketplace. You would buy the NFTs and whatnot. And sort of behind us, for example, you've got the land. There's 10,000 plots of land, and you sort of feed PYR peer into the land, and that levels it up. So kind of the more peer you stick into it, the more assets you get. And obviously I was very themed. You've got the underworld, the deserts, and the grasslands. So we give you assets based on that quadrant. So the more peer you put in your land, you get access to cooler things, and you sort of build this castle, which sort of plays on people's sort of vanity and accolades and bragging rights, which is always going to be there. That's why fashion industry is so great. So there's always a business for that. But I mean, PYR is no different than most tokens. It's a user settlement layer and voting layer, governance token. And Lava is the interesting one, because that's our infinite token, like I guess SLP was. So that's the one you do earn. And we've learned a few things from SLP and respect to them, of course, again, that we're trying to really very limit the supply, not just hand out free money. Like you have to earn 10,000 experience across all our games before you can even cash out the Lava you've earned. And there's a limited amount a day, and all these kind of things that you want to sort of sustain the economy and ways to make them reinvest in the game. But again, you've still got this hungry dog eat dog, guild versus guild of people trying to get that every last lava out of the world. And people are just running around. You could get like a circle of 20 people in Vulcanverse with their foxes, which aren't very strong animals, just fighting each other just to get the XP over and over again so they can cash out a couple of bucks for the hour.
I mean, it's such a like, when you just think about the across the different parts of the world and like GDP per capita, and you think about, there are certain parts of the world where it's like, even here in the US, it's like, hey, like, $35,000 a year is still like that's a top 1% like in the world, but like that's not going to do anything here in the US, right? No. And it's like that tells you everything you need to know about like the incentive system and the incentive models inside of some of these metaverses or the different token projects that are out there. And it's like, actually, I think you're right, was a great example of that, of just like they kind of were, they went through this process of, holy cow, like, how low does the incentive need to go for it still to be worth it for someone to come in and just not play the game because they like the game. Right. And then, but what is the value of also that person? It's like, man, it sounds like there's like this entire opportunity over here of just like creating those types of incentives. And it's like, there's this entire almost like workforce out there that's like underutilized. And it's like, they're coming to these new projects because these projects right now are the only way to get that. But like, where else is that model available? I don't know. There's like so much out there. And it's like, it's just a crazy insight that I think a lot of the world doesn't understand.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's very strange, and it's this whole sort of idea. I mean, what is sort of successful? I mean, Axie Infinity, you'd say it's successful because they had all these users, and users came in because they wanted to earn some money. I get it, and but a game company would define. I guess a game company would still define their success by how much profit they turned over. But it certainly wasn't for enjoyment with Axie Infinity. I think it was successful because you could visualize your earnings. You had your little cartoon characters and you could click and earn. And that made it so appealing because you could have earned that money from a lot of DeFi projects. There's a lot of crypto projects where you can sort of you can earn a few dollars, whatever. But with Axie, you could visualize it, and it made it a lot more sort of like, oh, I'm doing something, I'm interacting, and that made it very appealing to some.
Yeah, it satisfies the impatience of the crypto space as well, which is less than 5 minutes. So it's like to see what's happening right now, and to visualize that is so incredibly important. It's also really interesting though, because, and they've done this pretty well too, but like I think this is a challenge across the entire crypto space where it's like, how do you recognize those real power users that are there for the right reasons?
Right.
How do you reward them, incentivize them, keep them around, keep them building the community,
keep them around?
And that's that's interesting, because if we're talking about this being fully decentralized and it's just blockchain based and you don't know who your users are within your dApp, that's next to impossible. So it requires a whole set of tools and an understanding of what's going on and what you're trying to do with these individuals and mapping the experience out to them.
Which is near impossible, and of course you do need these people to kind of give the game popularity, and it's good marketing. You've got so many users, and some of them will start to play and they earn a little bit, and they will reinvest, and they will sort of help with the sort of tokenomics, as it were. But it's tricky. I mean, we have an ongoing debate in like some of our private channels with Vulcan Forged about are they offering as much back into the ecosystem as we want them to? I mean, what defines them offering it? Does it involve buying PYR? I mean, one of the what's the word? That's the other thing I was going to talk about. Yeah, it's, and also you've got the whole cheating thing. I mean, that's one thing we've really had a trouble with, because you're involving dollars, even though it's like a small amount to some people, that's such a lot to others. You've got to have constant police on there. I remember Axie put a tweet out saying they just banned, was it like 30,000 accounts because they were accused of cheating? I mean, of course, I don't know if they checked every single one. But we're finding ourselves going down that route, and it's not enjoyable when you're doing that. It's enjoyable making cool features and gameplay and seeing people talk about the quest. But when you're constantly monitoring people cheating for experience, like just running around the castle on an auto clicker in order to save $3, it's just like, well, hang on, was this the reason we set it up to begin with? So yeah, a lot of questions.
Yeah. How do you look at analytics and understand the community? And like, how are you starting to go down that path a little bit?
Well, I said the Vulcan police is a joke, but we have got the Vulcan police. Like we monitor, you can see every XP, every route where it comes from. So you can just see this chart where someone just earned 2,000 experience in like 5 seconds, and you look deeper and you realize, well, that was a really funny one recently. What was it? Goodness me, they found I can't remember what it was, but it was some bug where they managed to exploit it, and it was like, well, is it a bug because we left it in there? I think it was something about the owl could fight each other over and over again, or something like that. But should they be banned? I mean, it was our bug, and did they exploit it? And you've got all these kind of questions when the poor, guys.
Don't you wish you could capture that like ingenuity? It's almost like it's like if you can capture that ingenuity for like the positive side of something, or like something else. It's like take that person that exploited that and like offer them a job, or just like it's like if you can capture that in a way.
Yes. Oh, I know what it was. It's like back here you've got this volcano of Thanatos, where there's just lava that spews. It does nothing. And someone had obviously found when you go up to the tip point of the lava where the volcano is, and you press forage with your fox and try to get a gem out, it would do it on loop. So obviously one person had found that. He told his friends, and then more people were coming up to this landmark, and then some of the regular users were saying, guys, why is everyone standing at the volcano? And you go to the volcano, and there's probably about 30 people standing on the tip of the volcano with their foxes burying out gems. And it was like, this is like 6 days after we found maybe, I don't know, $200, $300 has been taken out of doing that. But okay, it's funny.
What's hilarious about this is like, I'm just like picturing like you teaching a class at like Stanford 10 years from now, like explaining like debrief on play to earn, and you're like, when the fox goes to the top of the volcano,
Yeah.
and it's just like, this is like what you went to college for. And like, this is
Yeah.
like, it's insane. But it's like, what I can say and what I know is that like, you're not the only person dealing with this, and it's a iteration of the industry in the space that we're all going through, that we're all identifying, and the people that come after are going to have a better, faster, stronger model that's going to really push things forward, and like, we're all going to be out ahead of it. But it's like, if this is the economy that we want to start down the path of, which we obviously it's going to happen, there's people that need to figure this stuff out early and figure out how to capture all that value into one place.
Exactly. You've got to break it before you make it. And whether or not we're the ones that come out the top and we conquer the world of metaverses, I don't know. Or maybe we're one of the sort of stepping stones to the future. But all we can do is work with what we've seen so far, what doesn't work, what does work, keep adapting. And I'm sure in a few years, the play to earn model will either be scrapped, it'll be adapted, it won't be adopted, it might be adopted. So we can either just keep going out as we're going. But very, very exciting.
You know, Jamie, this is interesting what you're saying, because for you to even like know that there were people at the top of the volcano with their fox trying to earn because they found a way to exploit the system, that means that you are monitoring that. And that means that you're also looking at blockchain transactions. And that means that you're looking at all of that. And like, I think this is the part of crypto that it isn't talked about or understood nearly enough. You know, like that implies that you are continually getting stronger and continually understanding more about the users, which evolves into how do we build the best user experience, the best tools, the best games, the best metaverse possible. And I think this is what's hard. And this right there is the difference between success and failure completely. Like knowing what's going on and evolving to it. And I think that's not talked about. Like hardly at all. You know, it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be perfect. It just blows my mind, and it just how people find these exploits. I mean, you wouldn't even think twice. There's no reason to go up to the bloody volcano. There is no reason. The fact he tried to forage there with the fox, and then he found it was an exploit, and then he told his friends who told their friends. So you can only watch it. But then again, the way you say, like, I'm watching it like the big brother in the sky, we kind of are. But then you've got the whole world decentralized, is it centralized? I think we have to accept this whole blockchain gaming is never going to be fully decentralized to an extent. I mean, if you're going to say you're using graphics that we've made, you can only build with underworld materials. You're gonna have to find a balance there between it. We hate banning accounts because that takes a lot of the ethos of just, but if someone's there stealing money from the pot by cheating, I mean, what can you do?
So on that same note, like when you have one person finding, I mean, exploits aside, one person has fun and loves using the app and is earning, like how do you look at community engagement? How do you wrap your brand around that, and how do you facilitate it and take it further?
Yeah, again, it's like there are sort of three sort of waves of people in there. There are people that can afford to not care so much about the lava, and they do enjoy, the robes and the weapons and the building, and they enjoy it for what it is. Then you've got the kind of in the middle ground where they like earning a little bit and they want to sort of work their way up. These are the people we really want to target. Finding a whale who wants to spend on the NFTs is easy. Finding someone you can hook into the economy and want to stay, that is the key to any metaverse or play to earn model, where they earn a little bit and they put it back in, they work their way up and they tell their friends. And then of course you've got the third demographic, which is those who just come in, find an exploit as much as they can, make 100 alt accounts, rob the place, and then go. But how you filter through them, it's an ongoing 24/7 job.
And I guess within that, like, what kind of adoption are you seeing? Like what kind of gameplay, how long are people on this thing? If you want to give any of those numbers out, or just in general.
Hours and hours and hours. I mean, and that's probably because of the lava. I mean, if we just suddenly took lava out and you can earn, then I mean, Vulcan Forged is cool, but it's certainly not a 24-hour I'm addicted World of Warcraft game yet. I mean, it's certainly, the reason was because you could earn lava for 24 hours a day. We hit 100,000 wallets recently, which is a nice milestone. But again, how many of those wallets are the gamers? And I keep saying, I can only be honest, I don't know where our demographic is yet. And I think it will form itself. It will slowly, we'll find a way what works for the company on a profitable level and what works for us. I mean, what we enjoy. And right now it's just building and building. But I think the demographics will find themselves in our games.
That is so interesting. Every other industry in the world does personas first and says, this is who our buyer is. You know,
Right.
it's like the crypto is so opposite.
I know, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well, how do you think about KPIs and like growth numbers and you know, like as a CEO, you're going out there and like potentially having to raise money again, or, you know, equity rounds versus token rounds and all of that. Like, what is the KPI, right? Like it's like you talked about number of wallets, you know, you might talk about number of users, you know, and then like reoccurring users, like average like earnings per user, how many games that they're going into, are they transferring from game to game? Like these are, you probably have a lot of different KPIs, but have you found anything that you're just like, hey, this is outside of, like, I won't give you the easy answer of like number of holders on the blockchain, but like, what else are you looking at?
Yeah, well, I don't know if that is a KPI. And I don't think, well, a good KPI, either way, number of users doesn't necessarily mean it's a sustainable business model. It can mean the opposite. It means you've just got as many sort of leeches as possible, and it's going to drain everything dry faster than it would do with only 100. So I think just user wallets and users is far from a KPI. You can use the easy idea of a token price, but again, I don't think it's that. I think the answer for a KPI for our industry is certainly those that don't have anything, and they come in, they earn a little, and they reinvest, and then they're adding to the economy with what they've taken, and then they tell other people, and they build that economy up, and they're attracting the right people. So it's definitely that middle demographic. Again, money and tokens. You know, we're not an unsuccessful company. We're in the top 150 or something tokens, and we could have retired years ago. For us now, it's not about that. I'm on a mission personally to see where this can go philosophically. I mean, one thing I didn't touch on was what you do see when you've got a virtual world and people in there and trading and in an economy. You're seeing a lot of these human sort of behaviors pan out in a virtual environment, like hierarchies and cliques and sort of, you know, jealousies and just some things you'd see, and sort of strive to be the top, and friends becoming rivals, and all the things you see. It's like a little bit of a petri dish on blockchain.
Well, that when you guys were talking about earlier a little bit of like, you know, what is the metaverse going to look like for someone like Meta? It's like, you know, as much as I don't want it to be a bunch of like, you know, advertisements and influencers and everything else, it's like, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like, what does an influencer look like inside of a metaverse? Right. Versus what they look like right now on something like a TikTok or an Instagram, or I don't know if people actually use Facebook anymore, but like, you know, it's like, what does that influencer look like? What does a brand look like? You know, it's like there's so much there that I think it's just going to be another iteration of kind of what we see. And then hopefully there's some other new stuff out there. But yeah, I still don't see it being like something I'm putting over my head. I mean, like that stuff, like Oculus has been out for a long time. Like,
exactly.
I feel like if it was going to catch, it would have caught.
Yeah.
So many things have happened. Like we sat at home for 2 years with a global pandemic and it didn't take off.
Yeah, I know that was the only chance they had, and now as we're coming out of it,
once in 100-year opportunity for people literally not leaving their homes, and people are like, nah,
right?
Like, just kind of tells me that that's not what the metaverse is going to be. It's going to be something it's got to be something that blends into your life in a very simple way. Like when I walk up to my car, I was going to open the door anyway, but the door opened for me. You know, it's like, oh, okay, that was really nice. Right. Not like something as intrusive as that. Right.
Intrusive. That's the word. Yeah. It was the same with what was the Nintendo one where was it the Wii where you could have to move around and stuff? Yeah. Which was never successful. I think once you sort of break that invisible wall between sitting down and actually being physically immersive in some hardware or software, that hasn't been proven to work yet. I know people love VR, but it's obviously not working because, as you say, the Oculus has been around forever. If it was going to work, it would have worked by now. People want to sit, click, and immerse themselves in a very easy way.
It's also interesting, like when you say immerse themselves, it seems like, you know, looking back with technology, I have a vision of when I first met our CTO. I think he had played video games for 36 hours straight, and there was like cups everywhere and taco wrappers and everything because he was just gaming for days.
Yeah.
And I feel like the future here might be a little more social than it is isolating. It might be a little more, less about I'm hidden with these goggles on my head versus I'm mobile and moving around and it's following me. And I think that's where a lot are going to fail.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, World of Warcraft, you had communities, but there wasn't that sort of sense of that you have in crypto, where you all own the token, you all own the NFTs, and I think that's where the blockchain comes in to give that community spirit, because you're involved financially into it, and it makes things a lot more real. So the communities become very much like they would in the real world. So yes, I agree. I think that's the one thing we can agree on about.
So how do you go ahead, Joe?
No, just something like, it's super off topic. You just gave me kind of a fun idea, because you talked about like how you would go play, and like you'd meet friends there, and then you'd wait to play, and like people like on Twitch watch other people play tons of games, like nonstop, hours and hours. They watch them. But what if you could blend that together and do almost like a movie theater for gaming?
Like, you mean just watching
like a movie theater? Like, what is a movie theater going to be repurposed for now that no one wants to go and sit there? It's like, what if you watch like live action games at
okay, so you get everyone sort of playing in their seat together. Oh god, that's sad and worrying. What was that movie where they're moving around those Wall-E or something, where they're all in the bubble doing that? But I can see it happening.
I mean, it's already happening. It's just happening at home. People are on Twitch watching people play Fortnite like all day or whatever else they're watching. Like, what if there was a more interactive, you could like cheer together, or like, I don't know, there's something there.
Yeah, you're right, man.
Community Twitches.
It's 10:52 a.m. here right now. No one is in the movie theaters watching Batman right now.
No,
it's not happening. It's empty.
Watching us. Yeah, that's right. It's a great business model. Let me just, that's it.
It's already live. It's out there. This will probably get 10 to 20,000 views. So someone out there will make it happen.
Superb.
Jamie, just to detract a little on I have a question on governance. So you mentioned, the competitions, the rivalries, the kind of guilds and sort of things that are being built within Vulcan. Like, how do you approach governance? How do you approach where decisions could be made, or at least how do you see that evolving?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you have to accept there's going to be a centralized entity with a game. I mean, we were writing the law and we're writing the rules of like what the fighting is. So at the end of the day, that's how we work anyway as a gaming studio. You can't just make any Vulcanite, we call our creatures. You can't make any Vulcanite and walk around. And I think, Sandbox is far more sort of decentralized in that respect, in that you can kind of make anything in Decentraland or in a sandbox. But Vulcanverse, it's decentralized, that you own everything. But we give you the tools and the rules and the weapons. You can't just put a Ferrari in the middle of Hades, or a cruise liner on the River of Styx. It just doesn't fit our law. So in that respect, we just accept that. We said, there's the rules. Here's the law. Here's the graphics. Here's the assets, and own it. Again, I find ownership far more interesting than the whole play to earn economy. I just think the idea of owning an NFT and the value and the scarcity and the trading of it and the emotional connection people get to those NFTs, that's far more interesting to me than the whole grinding for money kind of thing. But yeah, a mix of both, centralized, decentralized. Not going to hide from that.
How do you see that ownership evolving? Like, I keep thinking in my head, like Bored Apes, and like we've even done some projects with some kind of offshoots of Bored Apes and things. But like, how do you see that ownership evolving? Like, what do you see people doing with that ownership?
Yeah, I know, because it's weird, because it's decentralized ownership within a space that only exists. Like, I mean, if that blockchain exists or that community exists, let's say the Sandbox or Vulcanverse or Decentraland, the servers went down, the games went down, whatever went down, or the Bored Apes website went down, or the OpenSea went down. Does that ownership of the NFT still have the values it had before? It only has value when you can show it and the structure around it still exists, which kind of goes against the whole idea of NFTs, like it's yours forever. Well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. It depends on a lot of things. So again, it's still very new. I knew last year, when all the celebrities were jumping on the bandwagon of NFTs, that it was going to get a real dilution of just crap was going to be put to the side. And it's very interesting to me what remained out of that. A lot of real artists tried tokenizing their art, and their communities and their followers hated the idea. Again, a lot of it was carbon related. But there wasn't a market. What survives is these kind of you know, as you said, the Bored Apes, the weird JPEGs, the GIFs, all these kind of very sort of very niche collectibles are popular in NFTs, and not so much artists. And I think that's the same with gaming. You've got a different taste and a different demographic.
With NFTs, it's like by looking at the NFTs, you knew that it wasn't about the art.
Right.
Like
yeah.
just looking at them, knowing like, okay, like obviously these look like shit, all of them, like compared to like what like a real piece of like a painted picture would look like. It's art in a different form. It's community, it's rights and access. Like now that we're seeing things like people trying to buy golf courses, people like I just saw one for like the university NCAA men's tournament starting today, right? And all these cool little DAOs that you could go and like hook up your MetaMask and you could create a bracket and try to choose the winner, right? Like that's going to be applied to every single thing that happens forever going forward. And like that to me is the disruption of that, of like, well, what happens if I get an NFT that's minted off of that bracket, and I can prove forever that I did that, right? Like right now it's like, hey, I can't even go back and look at ESPN.com and see like my bracket from 4 years ago that I did, right? Because it's probably sitting on like, too much server space, right? Hey, this is going to get deleted. But if I can always go back and see the metadata of what I chose, like that's just another like, disruption of the middleman of something that went out there. And it's like, I think it's just the power of like we're moving to a world where like everyone in startup used to always be like, man, if everyone in the world gave me $1, I'd be a billionaire. Right. And people are like, well, that's not possible. It's like we now live in a world where like that's definitely possible. Where it's like you could build something and everyone can give you 10 cents or 5 cents to build and create value and you can get it. But like from an NFT perspective, especially in some of these metaverse, it's like what the values in the community, the values in the rights and access, the values in where it goes from there. And there's going to be winners and losers, just like everything else. I mean, we're seeing it play out in layer ones right now. And it's like, there's going to be disruptors.
Yeah, you're right. It's a community that defines the success of an NFT collection or a game. What they value as being the bragging rights or the cool thing or how much you want something. It's desire that's going to push the scarcity of something. And you said a really good point there about, you're right, the whole dollar. If everyone gave me $1, I'd be a billionaire. You're right. Back in I mean, without crypto, that's an incredibly hard thing to do. Without NFTs, I mean, you can't just get $1 from wide from different countries and equity and all this kind of stuff. There are a million things, but now you have NFTs and crypto, the potential is there. But of course, you will have winners, you will have losers. But that's the one thing crypto I adore about it. I mean, I don't trade, I can't stand all that stuff. It's the one thing that brings everybody together and the same sort of chance and the same sort of lawlessness. Well, lawlessness. Yeah, well, it's kind of lawlessness, isn't it? With
it is.
Crypto.
It is. And like one more thing on that, I know, John, we're gonna. It's the think about. I was trying to figure out like why all the layer ones are obsessed with NFTs outside of rights and access, right? Outside of like, okay, this is going to create this new kind of economy over here. The other thing is think about how much like value and token is being locked up when you have a really epic NFT collection on your layer one. Like if you launch like, Bored Ape, it's like at this point, how much value has been created on Ethereum? Like how much has been locked up? Like how much value is now sitting on all of just those Bored Ape, just one non-fungible token, not a bunch of tokens, not anything. It's one non-fungible token that now has shit value. Like that's what they're all trying to do. It's another mechanism to lock up tons of token.
It's a lot of value,
but value that represents.
But it's only valued on what the people would value those Bored Apes or crypto kitties, whatever, at that time. And I guess you could say, the market's like that. It's still sort of red, green, lines up and down. But I guess the NFT is like that, but it's far more swings and roundabouts. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of value locked up on there, but how they're much worth is down to the community. You're right. It's all about the community.
So, and it's interesting because as we sit here and talk about NFTs, I'm going to recall Ian on our team who works a lot on NFTs. He mentioned the other day, he shared a post that said there's now more NFTs on OpenSea than there were websites on the internet in 2010.
No way.
That's just OpenSea, just those chains that are supported on OpenSea. And you think about that, it's pretty wild.
Well, everyone can do it and everyone can make some money. I mean, there was the UK news article about some 13-year-old boy in the UK who made 10,000 whales as in like the fish whales, and he made hundreds and hundreds of £1,000s. I mean, I think he did it as like a fun project. He paid off his mum and dad's mortgage. It's just anyone could do it. Anyone could mint an NFT. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I looked at them. There wasn't like anything special, but it was at that time last year where everything had 10,000. It was like the 10,000 ape, 10,000 this, and he did 10,000 whales, and it took off, and he can retire now because he just made a bunch.
The 12-year-old boy makes 300,000 pounds from whale NFTs.
And he found it. Great.
Just the picture of him, like the smile on this kid's face is just hilarious.
Amazing. Yeah. Awesome.
So happy. But like, it goes back. It's like, I can't even remember, like, I don't even want to know and like even think about the amount of hours I spent on like EverQuest, right? Or like Rainbow Six. And like, if I had EverQuest token right now, like 20 years later, and it was in the same, like if those games continued to move on, and like, I can't even, like, the kids are going to go through that right now of being able to play something, contribute time, contribute value to that. Cause like, think about the amount of value that like all of those kids back in the day gave to EverQuest, and I paid $20 a month or whatever else it may be. If I would have enjoyed it, they
enjoyed it. Yeah, they enjoyed it. I don't know, Joe, if you were given money for your time in EverQuest, I don't know if it would have the same kind of enjoyment. Like, I remember my dad years ago, he got to like level 75 in Warcraft, and he did it because he enjoyed doing it. I think the minute you start saying, well, actually, if you get to level 75, you'll earn this, it's a kind of different kind of mentality. I mean, you can't regret those EverQuest years. You enjoyed doing it. It was the gameplay, right?
Yeah, it's the community. It's the people I met. Like, things that I think I got introduced to Flash on EverQuest or Rainbow Six. Someone's like, make me a cool, like, or it was like a Winamp skin. I don't know, Johnny, remember like Winamp, like the MP3, like
I do. Yeah,
we might know those. Yeah, like I don't know how old you are, but it's like those little things, the creative things that came out of that are like, oh, like, how do you overclock like your processor, in order to like go like 4% faster in a game or something like that. And it's like those little things that you learn along the way because of the passion of it is important. But I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier of like, yes, I don't think I would have wanted to be paid $100,000 a year to play EverQuest.
No,
but what would have been really cool is over the years playing each of those, there was some sort of like passive amount that wasn't going to make a massive impact at that moment, but over time could be enough to kind of make up for something. And if that was happening across every single game, every single website I interacted with, every single message maybe I sent on some platform, I think that's when it starts to get interesting.
Yeah, but again, it's hard to know whether or not it would affect our motivation, what we would do in the game or not. Yeah, no, you're right. Well, we'll find out in the next few years whether the real motivation for people playing these games.
So I'd like to know. I want to go back to what you guys were saying about getting $1 from everyone in the world. That first implies that everyone in the world knows about you. They've heard about you. They have a emotional connection with you. And I guess, I'm curious, how do you look at awareness and, getting your name out there and communicating with the community and building it? How does Vulcan Forged approach that?
Well, I guess I was kind of lucky in the fact that I built the first website myself, which is very arty, the NFT site. So we had like a community of 10, and I haven't left the community channel since then. And I find it impossible to, so we've got 100,000 people, and all these games, I'm always in the community. So it's very easy for me to talk to them on a personal level. I think that's worked to our advantage a little bit, that transparency and putting out a load of crappy, broken alpha products and testing it with the community has helped, which is something you get away with in crypto. I don't think you'd get away with it if you were Ubisoft putting out, or Cyberpunk putting out a game that wasn't working. Gamers are ruthless, but game reviewers are. But in the crypto gaming world, if you can produce something which is near to World of Warcraft, you're worshipped, or it's like has mildly fun gameplay. They're like, oh my God, this is enjoyable, and I'm getting paid for it. It's like, well, hang on a second, there are 20 much better games out there. But that just shows how small the blockchain gaming market is. But communication's always been our strong point. We're just very honest about things, and we show the development of what we're doing. I guess that's because we come from a more sort of traditional company route, really, than the whole crypto thing. We're sort of used to just being honest, I suppose.
Love that. It's great. Iterate towards something that's just super awesome that they all feel vested in. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and be honest about it. And I just think, it's just better than just the promise in the world. I mean, you're getting a lot of these sort of Unreal 5, and it's an incredible engine. A lot of Unreal 5 trailers are coming out now, which all of a sudden these crypto companies made up of 3 people can somehow make better games than multi-billion studios can and they've ever done. And they're hinting at it, or this is going to be the most realistic game ever. Well, hang on a second. No other gaming studio has done that. There's a reason World of Warcraft uses low polygons. I mean, we still use Unity 3D. We've made an Unreal 5 engine game anyway, just to show we can do it, like a single player temple run kind of game. But when you've got an MMO with thousands of people in one place, you are not going to have that level of realism that some trailers are putting out. And last year, we saw loads of it happening. There were ICOs all over the place, just based on the trailer, because you could ride that hype wave and you could say, this is going to be the next big metaverse. We're making something no one other game studio has done. And people bought into it. But I guess that's every fad, really. You get sort of the apples and the rotten ones as well.
That's super interesting. Yeah, lots of hype with nothing in market and nothing coming for years. And you have no clue how the users will use their token, or if just literally no clue, yet worth billions of dollars. It's fascinating.
Yeah, no clue. But most people are in it for like just the ×5, ×10, or whatever. But that's why community is so important. It's actually was successful for that reason. They had a very loyal community right from the beginning. And I think if you have a solid community from the roots up, then you'll be around for a while.
So I know we're over an hour here, and I want to respect your time, but I do want to ask. We always ask this question on our streams, and it's funny, we were talking about this before we even popped live here. Really about how crazy this space is. It's 24/7, 365. It's addictive. It's fun, but how do you stay healthy in this environment? And are there any tactics you could share with the community?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I think I've put on about 15 kilograms since we started the game. I don't see my wife and daughter anywhere near as much as I should. I sleep about 5 hours a night. Look at the programming at 5 in the morning. So if I'm still alive this time next year, then I'll tell you my tricks. But as I was saying to Joe before, it's like crypto's this human organism that just never rests, and these are constantly in the back of your mind. You wake up and there's a new project or a new person or another nutcase in your DMs asking you when moon or something, and you've got and I'm terrible because I always reply. I just I say, I can't answer you that, and if you reply once, they'll think, oh, he's read the message, I best get into him. And but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know what you should do, but I don't do it. Sort of structure yourself, give yourself 9 to 5s, and go home with the family and eat. But let's be honest, guys, we're not going to do that anytime soon, are we?
Well, if it's any consolation or indication, I mean, that means that there's a lot of passion and a lot of purpose, right? And I think there's a lot of people in the world that are every day they wake up and they're wondering if what they're doing is having the impact towards themselves and their family and the world. And it's like in this space, when people come into it, I feel on average that they feel like they are making an impact, and they are. And it's like we're building something new here, and it's like, that's just very exciting. It's easy to get up in the morning. It's easy to stay focused when you have that purpose and that drive, and especially when it's something that you've created. So it's like that's what you're feeling.
Absolutely, yeah, and it is the creativity that drives me at the moment. Absolutely, as I said, we could all retire years ago, and I'm sure you guys could as well. But it's a fascination with the space and evolving. It should be so boring not to have this. I understand. Right. Yeah, but yeah. Well,
awesome, man.
Lovely. Yeah.
Well, Jamie, dude, appreciate it. It was amazing to meet you. Congratulations on all the success. We'll definitely have to have you back here at some point and keep updated on you personally and Vulcan Forged, my man. And we will thank you everyone for listening. John, as always, it's a pleasure, and we'll chat with you backstage, my man.